We were in Zambia in a little ashram, 4 of us sitting around, and one devotee there, his name was Bivakar. He was in the World Atlas looking at Africa and populations and whatnot, and he saw this little island out there in the middle of the Indian Ocean. He said, oh, look at it, it's like about 850,000 people, and more than half of them were Hindus. So Chaivana Maharaj and Parameshwari Das, they went to India for Mayapur festival, and on their way back they stopped in Mauritius, and they felt it was a very nice place. So Bivakar and I went to Mauritius, and we began things there. We kind of went there Prabhupada style. We went there with a trunk of books and more or less no money and an invitation to someone's house. That's how we began. The people took an immediate interest in us, I think just because we were a novelty. But the preaching really took off after Srila Prabhupada came. It's amazing to see the potency. I mean, he only stayed really a few days, and he inspired so many people. And the long-lasting effect of his presence is incalculable to me. I remember he was speaking so enthusiastically to a few boys that were coming, and they were talking about making that country the first Krishna-conscious country, and I'm just sitting there thinking, this is never going to happen. But Srila Prabhupada, he could just see it. His devotion was so great that he literally influenced thousands of people, even though he only met a few.
The interesting thing about the place where we were staying was that it was in an area that was mostly populated by Creole population, means Christians of African descent. And obviously they have never heard of Hare Krishna because it was such a new thing at that time. But when they heard a Swami, like a saintly person, was coming to reside in their neighborhood, and that there were going to be daily lectures in the evening, so many people came. So many ladies, young men, and all types of people. Not only Hindus came. Actually, I would think the majority were non-Hindus, and they were all interested.
This house for Prabhupada to stay was given by Mr. Madhvani, who actually was the sugar king of Uganda, Madhvani Sugar Mills. We found out that Mauritius doesn't have a sugar refinery, that actually the sugar cane is crushed into juice, and then that's shipped to England, and it's refined in England. And then Mauritius has to buy sugar from England, although it's growing all the sugar cane. So Prabhupada was telling her, why are you providing sugar for the British, for their teacups? Just so that you get money, and then with the money then you buy electronic goods. You have to import everything because you're not making anything. And even food was imported. So Prabhupada said, instead of growing sugar cane, you should be growing your own food. Be self-sufficient in food. But you're just being exploited. It goes back to the colonial times and the British Empire. Prabhupada didn't approve of cash crop. He approved of a food crop. So this was, something revolutionary. Nobody ever told him this. And he told it also to the government officials that he met. This was part of the Krishna consciousness movement, to be self-sufficient in food. So Prabhupada had been invited by the Prime Minister, Mr. Ram Ghulam. So Prabhupada came. But then after arriving, the Prime Minister had some sudden engagements, and he had to postpone his meeting with Prabhupada.
Krishna is full of all opulencies, and renunciation is one of them. There are many instances of such renunciation, for Krishna is the master of renunciation. The fight was actually between Duryodhana and Yudhishthira. Arjuna was fighting on behalf of his elder brother, Yudhishthira. Because Krishna and Arjuna were on the side of Yudhishthira, Yudhishthira's victory was certain. The battle was to decide who would rule the world. And Sanjaya predicted that the power would be transferred to Yudhishthira. It is also predicted here that Yudhishthira, after gaining victory in this battle, would flourish more and more, because he was not only righteous and pious, but he was a strict moralist. He never spoke a lie during his life. There are many less intelligent persons who take Bhagavad Gita to be a discussion of topics between two friends in a battlefield. But such a book cannot be scripture. Some may protest that Krishna incited Arjuna to fight, which is immoral. But the reality of the situation is clearly stated. Bhagavad Gita is the supreme instruction in morality. The supreme instruction of morality is stated in the 9th chapter.
So on one morning walk, we were going along the beach. It was very intimate because there were very few devotees on there, and Prabhupada was very relaxed. And in one place, Prabhupada was sitting on the bench. Pusa Krishna Maharaj put his chadar so that Prabhupada would be comfortable, and all the devotees were sitting down on the sand. And next to the bench there was capsules of Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, cigarette butts, and all kinds of wrappers. And then he said, "What is all this Pepsi-Cola, Coca-Cola? We don't use all this. What is the necessity of this Pepsi-Cola, Coca-Cola? In our ashram, we don't have any of this, and we are all very happy anyway." In this way, he said, they manufacture all kinds of things, and they make advertisements so that people will consume. In this way, they are misleading society into sense gratification. And because the people want sense gratification, they will purchase endlessly till finally, they get sick of all this junk food and garbage.
Surrender unto Krishna in devotional service, in full Krishna consciousness, is the most confidential instruction and is the essence of the 18th chapter.
Because the body is born in America, therefore he is thinking America.
One of the first things we arranged was a press conference. That's what we are seeing here. Prominent reporters from the television, the newspapers were invited to come and meet Srila Prabhupada and put their questions. 1975 was a time when the country was not very developed and people were not very enlightened on spiritual subjects. The population of the country, consisting in a majority of Hindus, they were used more to Lord Shiva's worship and Ramayana. So to have Krishna being propagated was rather unusual. I remember when we came, we brought the Bhagavad Gita. And most people had just heard about the Bhagavad Gita, but very few people had the Bhagavad Gita actually at home. So there was such a big demand for the Bhagavad Gita as it is that we couldn't supply, because the yatra was not in any way up to the standard to import books from Los Angeles or anything like that. But anyway, we did take orders, and after some time we were able to get the books in and distribute them to the people. So you will see the questions are rather simple. People here are generally quite accepting swamis, priests, and other saintly persons without having to kind of challenge. Out of their cultural upbringing, they won't challenge him like a Western reporter would probably challenge him. We have recorded another exchange between the reporter and Prabhupada. The reporter is asking, "Do you think, Swamiji, that man can become perfect?" Prabhupada says that is the chance of a human being. Therefore, in the human society, there are schools, colleges, education, culture, and not in the animal society. Humans can be made into perfect beings, not the animals. So if mankind is denied proper education, that is the greatest harm. Humans have got the opportunity for spiritual education, but the authorities are not giving them that opportunity. They're imperfect, and they are taking advice from the imperfect. Therefore, it is very difficult for them to understand, because they do not take advice from the perfect person, Krishna. Apashyatam atma tattvam. They cannot see. Without guidance from the Supreme Person, nothing can be properly managed. Then the reporter puts another question. Do you mean that perfection is to become God or to become a perfect man? Prabhupada says, man never becomes God. Then the reporter said, what does perfection mean? Prabhupada says, perfect means to become godly. So this was very significant, being also permeated by the impersonalist aspect of spirituality and by false teachings of swamis, and preachers and other type of persons. They also had the idea maybe that if you become perfect, you become a god. But Prabhupada very clearly put it. Man cannot become God. The best he can become godly.
There are degrees of light. There is sunlight and there is this light. You cannot compare this light with the sunlight. Light comes from everywhere. But that does not mean the sunlight and this light is the same. First of all, you understand this. You have question about the light. First of all, you understand there are degrees of light. You cannot say this light and the sunlight is the same.
By this you mean that those who adapt to the life by the teachings coming from the Quran or from the Bible is
that is your
lesser life.
That is your business to study. But we give you the idea that light comes from everywhere. There is one glow one. That light also light. And the sunlight is also light. You cannot think that the glow one's light and the sunlight is the same. Now it is your business to see which is glow one light and which is sunlight. That is your business. Let them say all nonsense, what can I say? Every nonsense will speak something nonsense. How can I check it? There are so many nonsenses. Therefore, we are trying to make all this nonsense into human being. That is our problem. So long he is on nonsense, he will go on speaking nonsense. What can I do?
Swamiji, one thing I want to know. This slok, from where you have quoted this slok? Lavanam Desaran. This slok,
Yes, it is in the 3rd chapter of 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Have you got all the Bhagavatas? 12 canto? So you can note it.
We'd rotate. Some of us stay back and clean Prabhupada's room or do personal services. So one day when I went on the walk, we were out approaching the beach. In the distance, a sugarcane truck goes by with 4 or 5 workers in the back of the truck. They saw us, and in a mocking way, they go, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. They weren't nasty or anything. I mean, they're happy-go-lucky guys. And one of the devotees said, oh, Prabhupada, what happens to someone who chants Hare Krishna like that? And Prabhupada said, in a very deep and most serious and convinced way, they are liberated.